Welcome to episode 4 of Vex Views Decks. This episode is going to be a bit different than normal, because rather than going over an archetype, I will be going over individual cards. So rather than doing the pack history and appearances and stuff, I'm just going to give a brief introduction of what this episode will be covering and then jump straight into the card reviews and riffs. As a side note, these episodes will not cover cards that are part of an archetype, even if they fit into the episode's subject themselves. Reptile is probably the most underappreciated card type in the game. Believe it or not, it actually has more archetypes than other types, but those other types have better archetypes than this type. For example, Pyro have Lavels, Thunder has Batterymen, Rock has Rockstun, Sea Serpents have Atlanteans, and Dinosaurs were fucking meta at one point. Reptiles though? While Alien just can't keep up with the game, Venom is one of the worst archetypes out there, Reptilians feel very unfinished, and Worms, while actually being the best of the four, are stuck with over 20 useless pieces of shit in their archetype. Despite all of that, Reptiles actually have some very sweet support cards. In fact, some of them are quite possibly some of the most powerful type support cards in the game. Am I biased? Hell yes. Am I wrong? You decide. Now for the cards themselves. First up is Asha Leon. Aw, isn't he cute and colorful? And he's got stars on him too. It's like if a toddler used a chameleon as an arts and crafts project. It's a level 3 water monster with 1400 attack and 800 defense. That's actually quite an attack score. Its effect is, while you control this face-up attack position card, your opponent cannot select a monster other than Asha Leon as an attack target. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can add one reptile-type monster with 500 attack or less from your deck to your hand. Attack magnetism effects aren't, and have never been, relevant unless you can set up a lock with 2 copies of the same monster, of which this card cannot be used for due to wording. The search effect is incredibly specific. I don't know why the hell they slapped such a tiny attack value restriction on it. What is the point of that? How does a player benefit from being able to search an extremely small pool of reptile monsters? You can grab Alien Ammonite, I guess. Asha Leon came out way before the better reptile searcher, let alone recombination device, so I'll cut it some slack. Fun fact, it also has an upgraded form called Magia Asha Leon, which is a level 5 monster with 2000 attack that does pierce damage and can't be attacked if your opponent controls spell or trap cards. Next is Razor Lizard, which is based on the Frilled Lizard, a type of lizard who can flare up a hood of skin around its neck to ward off predators.
Help! It's a monster in a headdress! Ah!
Although in Razor Lizard's case, it looks like it's being strangled by its frill. Do not use this guy to shave your beard. It's a level 3 Earth monster with 1500 attack and 300 defense. Its effect is, while you control another reptile-type monster, if this card attacks a face-down defense position monster, destroy the monster immediately with this card's effect without flipping it face-up or applying damage calculations. Okay, so this guy doesn't support reptiles so much as reptiles support it. But, you know, it's got the type listed, so I might as well throw it in. And honestly, I might as well left him out anyway, since he is disposable as a Dawn Mist Razor. Seriously, just use Sasuke Samurai. He doesn't require backup to kill set monsters, and he came out in 2003. Next is Lion Alligator. Wow, you know a lion and an alligator fusion can look a lot cooler than just slapping a mane on a gator. Look at an Iguion from Final Fantasy VIII, or hell, even a Lyord from DSBT. It's a level 4 water monster with a sweet 1900 attack and 200 defense. Its effect is, while you control a reptile-type monster, other than this card, if a reptile-type monster you control attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. Oh wow, another reptile that requires a buddy to do something. Still, at least he grants pierce damage to all reptiles, instead of just selfishly hogging the effect for himself. This isn't the only monster with an effect like this either. Insects have Cross-Sword Beetle, Fish, Sea Serpent, and Aqua monsters have Yumino Tortoise, and Beast, Beast Warrior, and Wing Beast have Enraged Battle Ox. All of them are shit, by the way, although at least Lion Alligator is the strongest. Next is Spawn Alligator. Looks like he could be the second in command for King to rule, but alligators are not that slender. It's a level 5 water monster with 2200 attack and 1000 defense. Bare minimum of acceptable, folks. Its effect is, during the end phase of the turn this card was tribute summoned by tributing a reptile type monster, target one monster that was used for the tribute summon of this card. Special summon it from the graveyard. Wait, what the hell does it mean by targeting one monster? It's a level 5 monster. You can only tribute summon it with one monster. If it special summoned the tributed monster immediately after being summoned, it might have had some merit. But with how it is now, it's better off as a pair of boots. Next is Evil Dragon Ananta. Now in my spirit video, I made an offhand mention that Ananta, like Yamada Dragon, was based on the Orochi, the multi-headed snake dragon monster slayed by Susano. Well, it turns out Ananta takes inspiration from something else entirely. It's based on the Ananta Shesha, which is the king of all Nagas, which are a race of snake people in Hindu mythology. He holds every planet in the universe on his hoods and doubles as Vishnu's bed where he sings songs of her glory. Most narcissistic lullaby ever, eh? When he uncoils, life is granted and created, but when he coils back up, the universe is destroyed. Looking closely at his artwork, you can see one of his heads is not like the others. That's probably the main head like Medi's Orochi. He's also got a head he wears as a chest plate. He's a level 8 dark monster with question mark attack and defense. His effect is, this card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card cannot be special summoned except by removing from play all reptile type monsters from your side of the field and graveyard. This card's attack and defense are each equal to the number of reptile type monsters you removed times 600. During each of your end phases, destroy one card on the field. So he's a lot like a reptile version of Cyber Eltanin. It's really nice that Reptile's got a boss monster like this, and a copy of him is worth running in any reptile deck since he comes in handy in a pinch. However, it's important to remember that his destruction effect is mandatory, so he might end up destroying himself if you aren't careful. Next is King of the Feral Imps, or King Feral Imp as I usually call him. He's based off of the monster form of a gremlin from the 80s movie of the same name. He's an upgrade of Death's Feral Imp, who himself is an upgrade of Feral Imp. Also look at the cute little babies latching onto him. He's a rank 4 dark Ixies monster with 2300 attack and 2000 defense. Nice stats for a rank 4, eh? He requires 2 level 4 monsters to summon, and you can detach a material from him once per turn to search for a reptile monster. Searching is as awesome as it is simple, and the fact that it can search any reptile really makes this card amazing. And the fact that it's completely generic makes this card more amazing. Granted, there really aren't any generic reptiles you want to grab, but at least it's there. Although if I recall, PP used this card to search Gigabyte and X-Saber Palomuro for help in some of their plays. Gigabyte provided you with a rank 4 with no normal summon if you used them alongside Trick Clown, and Palomuro was used to make Naturia Beast if you use him alongside Hat Tricker. As for reptile decks themselves, in addition to Ananta up there, aliens can use it to search Ammonite, worms can use it to search Zex, reptilians can use it to search Voski, and Venom can use it to search... Serpent, I guess? Anyway, it's a searcher, run at least one of him. With the monsters done, we move on to the spells and traps. Next is Snake Rain. Ah yes, even if you aren't familiar with reptiles, I'm sure you're familiar with this infamous card. That artwork is kinda scary too. I'd rather it rain cats and dogs than snakes. It's a normal spell, and its effect is, discard one card, select 4 reptile-type monsters from your deck, and send them to the graveyard. Wow. So I'm sure you can see why this is the biggest ticking time bomb of a card in the game. It's 4 Foolish Burials in 1 card. Damn, that's downright broken! On paper, that is. You see, there is currently no reptile archetype that can abuse this card. At least not yet. Aliens don't care how many of them are in the grave, so long as one of them is level 4. Worms only have 1 relevant monster that needs to be in the grave, and he has a buddy to help him with that. And reptilians have no benefit from being in the graveyard. Venom is the only one that can take advantage of this, and it's only to buff up their boss monster. If we ever get a reptile archetype of monsters that like being in the grave, or raw forbid, a burning abyss level of reptile floaters, this card's power will be truly unleashed. Now some people say this card is the reason we haven't gotten any new reptile archetypes, but that's dumb. We got worms and reptilians since this card came out, so it's not that Konami is worried about busting reptiles, they just aren't making any more reptile archetypes because they aren't dragons, machines, warriors, fiends, or spellcasters. Next is Viper's Rebirth. By the way, that isn't a zombie bursting through the top of a beast all alien style, it's Reptilian Skyla. That reptile mausoleum looks super cramped too. It's a normal spell and its effect is activate only if all monsters in your graveyard are reptile type. Select one non-tuner monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Destroy it during the end phase. Wow, talk about super restrictive. Then again, I'll give it credit for not, restricting the monster from attacking or negating its effects or something. Destroying it during the end phase is fair enough, and I guess you could combo it with Phenomenon to activate Rise of the Snake Deity. The tuner restriction is absolutely pointless, since there are only 4 reptile tuners in the game. One of them nobody's even heard of before PP, and 3 of those only get their effects off of their normal summon. I believe I made a joke about this in the animated duels.
Are there even any reptile tuners anyway?
There's Masked Chameleon, who's kinda pointless to summon that way. Alien Ammonite, but he is also pointless to summon that way. Then again, Viper's Rebirth is pointless in aliens because they have Code Ancient Ruins. All that's left is Reptilian Viper. Huh, never got the irony into that name until now. You can't rebirth the Viper with Viper's Rebirth. How about that? Yeah, nobody cares about your monster reborn. However, having to only have reptile monsters in your grave really kills the usefulness this card has. I mean, in reptile decks themselves, you shouldn't be roaming a whole bunch of non-reptiles anyway. In the main deck, at least. You might as well not even have an extra deck if you use this card, cause you ain't summoning shit. You summon anything besides King of the Feral Imps up there, Cosmic Fortress Golgar, or I don't fucking know, Old Entity Hastor, then this card becomes a dead draw. Next is Attack Pheromones. Oh sweet, Phenomenaga gets to be in a non-venom card artwork, and it looks like she is using sweet scent on Warrior Digreffer. Seriously, that's what it looks like. He's even got the stat reduction aura lines on him. It's a continuous spell and its effect is, if a monster you control attacks a defense position monster, change that monster to face up attack position at the end of the damage step if your attacking monster is reptile type. First off, they could have made this effect a lot less wordy if they said, if a reptile type monster you control attacks, then they could just nix the rest of the text after damage step. Anyway, as this card artwork implies, it's meant to stop your opponent from turtling when you have Phenomenaga out so you can fulfill her win condition. I already explained in my last episode why trying to fulfill that win condition is impractical as hell, as is playing Venom in general. Thus, this card is impractical as hell. Outside of her, I don't think any other reptile monster is going to scare your opponent into turtling anyway. Next is Molting Escape. Molting is when a reptile becomes too big for its skin and sheds it. It's basically the reptile equivalent of going up a shirt size. The molting monster in this artwork is none other than Grappler, who actually made an appearance in the anime. Look at this guy, he's like a wannabe space pirate. It's an equip spell and its effect is, equip only to a reptile type monster. Once per turn, if the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. The equipped monster gains 300 attack at the end of the damage step each time this effect is applied. So it's a once per turn battle protection that nets you a whopping 300 attack points. Yeah, that's really bad. You'd be better off equipping your reptile with, United We Stand or something. Because if your attack is high enough, battle protection is completely irrelevant. Ain't that right, Five-Headed Dragon? Next is Alien Brain. You know, it actually looks kinda cute. I mean, there are worse things you could have your brain replaced with. It's a normal trap, and its effect is, when a reptile-type monster you control is destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster and sent to the graveyard, take control of the opponent's monster, and if you do, it becomes Reptile type. That is actually really good. Yes, something power creep, something battle traps suck, but just take this card for what it is right now, because reptiles are going to be awful no matter how ridiculous the game's power creep gets. It's a non-targeting, permanent control gaining card. The type change is presumably because the monster's brain gets replaced with the brain in the artwork that makes it think it's a reptile. It's not really relevant, but I guess it opens up the possibility of using that monster with offerings to the snake deity. Now for a little trivia, which I covered in my alien video. There's a monster called Flying Saucer Musiki, which lets you search for an alien card instead of conducting your normal draw. That's alien card, not alien monster. That means it can search back row. None of the alien support cards actually have alien in their name, which means the only spell or trap card it can search is this one. However, not only is Alien Brain not an alien card, but Flying Saucer Musiki isn't an alien card either. Next is Snake Whistle. Its artwork depicts Sinister Serpent getting blasted into oblivion, an accurate metaphor for how Konami butchered it with its errata. It's a normal trap, and its effect is, activate only when a reptile type monster you control is destroyed. Special summon one level 4 or lower reptile type monster from your deck.
You just put your lips together and you come real close.
Except during the damage step.
Can you blow my whistle, baby? Whistle, baby. Here we go.
Yeah, so this card would actually be alright if you could use it when a reptile is destroyed by battle, but because of the mechanics of the game, you can't do that. That's okay though. This card is outclassed by one I'll get to in a moment. Next is Offerings to the Snake Deity, depicting Phenomenon being set ablaze. Kill it with fire, am I right? And there's a reason for that artwork, as well as the name. It's a normal trap, and its effect is, target one face-up reptile type monster you control and 2 cards your opponent controls. Destroy all 3 targets. That is awesome. A 2-for-2 destruction card that works for any reptile you have. It's like a better version of Icarus Attack, which requires you to tribute your own monster instead of targeting it, so you don't lose your monster if Offerings gets negated. However, it's important to note the last bit on this card. It says, destroy all 3 targets, not destroy those cards, or something similar. That may sound like semantics, but in this overly complex game, it actually means something. It means if any of those cards are removed from the field before this card effect resolves, the remaining cards are not destroyed, because it no longer has the 3 specified targets. Granted, this scenario shouldn't come up too often, but it's something important to remember. Also, its name, artwork, and effect are specifically designed with the Rise of the Snake Deity in mind, which you could only activate when Phenomenon is destroyed by a card effect. Last is Damage equals Reptile, which is the only card in the game that has an equal sign in its name. Here we see a Slifer Red student burning in hell as a giant snake approaches him. It's a continuous trap, and its effect is, once per turn, when you take battle damage from a battle involving a reptile type monster, you can special summon one reptile type monster from your deck with attack less than or equal to the battle damage you took. That is plain awesome. It's like a continuous version of Damage Condenser, the card you never heard of, but for reptiles. It's especially useful in Venom, because if you take any damage whatsoever, you can instantly bring out Phenomenon since he has 0 attack. Reptilians can benefit from this card as well, since a good number of their monsters have 0 attack. It's also important to know that it doesn't have to be battles with your reptiles to get this card's effect off. If your opponent attacks you with one of their reptile monsters, this card will activate. Will that ever happen? No, not at all. But it's something you'll remember if it does. All in all, it's an awesome way to net field presence for a monster type that struggles to make more than one play per turn. This has been episode 4 of Vex Views Decks. Until next time, remember that even though you might find them scary, reptiles are living beings, and they deserve the same amount of respect as any other wonder of nature.